Coming into the Pro Football Pod. Coming in, coming in.
Was that Joe Burrow? No, I
No,
don't think so.
that's Jake Browning.
Jake Browning fools.
Put
Well,
some
welcome,
respect.
welcome back to another week of the Pro Football Pod. We are going to recap Week 14 for you. Do the Bengals have their franchise quarterback in
In
Jake
some
Browning?
fashion. Between the two of them, I think they're good.
Is it just the
That
system,
dude can sling the rock.
or is Joe Burrow actually good? So, we're
Yep.
actually not gonna.
Jake Browning was one of the top high school quarterbacks coming out. He was one of the top recruited quarterbacks in college. Had some unlucky stops, bounced around, landed at Washington, had a pretty solid career there. And yeah, to this point, he's just been a backup, but the skills there, it's just, you can see, and I shout out because we don't really have him on the list as guys to talk about, but Zach Wilson, like you see what these quarterbacks do when they go out there and they literally have the mindset of I have nothing to lose. And when
That boy
you
was
can play
scooting.
loose like that, you get product like this. And that's not to say, it would be different if Jake Browning all of a sudden had a franchise thrown on his shoulders. But from what you're seeing over these last two games, it's been top of the league type performances that we're seeing. It's awesome.
How do you feel about Garrett Wilson with what Zach Wilson's given to him? With what he's been dealing with in the quarterback trio?
I
Garrett
don't
Wilson,
think
he's
that
been
this
doing
is
decent.
the
He's been
resurgence, and Garrett Wilson's now going to be like a top 15 weekly wide receiver in fantasy or anything.
well, no, he's been like getting 15 points every week though. He's just
Yeah,
been coming away with the points and
I think that
consistent.
this will Zach Wilson having some confidence is never going to be bad for anybody on that offense. I think the biggest contributor is going to be Brees Hall. Brees Hall is going to receive the most benefit from Zach Wilson, like taking this step over Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I agree because it'll just open up the running lanes for him as well. If the passing is a threat, it'll open up the run for him.
If asked between Kyle Pitts and Drake London, who would most everybody say is the better talent, potential talent in the NFL?
Oh, it's Pitts by a mile.
And it's because of
Yeah.
his speed. His speed, his
It's just
size,
overall
athleticism.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that way this past weekend. Desmond Ritter lit it up with Ritter. 172 yards for
Drake London.
Drake London, highest of his career. And, did Ritter look like he was necessarily the guy? No, but I mean, their team's starting to work their playmakers in a little bit more, and it's a good thing to see. I mean, is Ritter valuable for you guys moving forward?
Now, I do take a little grain of salt on that game just because Tampa Bay's pass defense has been awful all season long. But I mean, Ritter has had a few games this season where he's just performing out of his mind. And coming into the season, if you had me pick between Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ritter, I was taking Kenny Pickett with no hesitation.
Yeah.
Now it's completely flipped on its head on that one. So I mean, I'm not picking up Ritter to start him because I don't trust the consistency of it going forward. But where this is just the recap episode and we're just, reviewing and giving hat tips to guys, he balled out. Like he did everything he could for his team to win. Him and Drake London both. It's just Baker did what Baker does and, had a little comeback at the end there.
Yeah, there's a lot more talent on the Falcons squad, so like he has a lot more to work with, and he uses his legs. So you like to see that from him. If it'd be a little bit more consistent out of the guy.
Now, if you were one of the teams that has to deal with one of these high-end quarterbacks that's gotten hurt, like a Herbert or something like that, would you see the way Joe Flacco's playing as a potential outlet, as a potential fix to the problem that just happened for you? You just entered the playoffs. Joe Herbert didn't get you there. All the other players on your team did, but now he's going to let you down in the big game. Would Flacco be someone that would be a potential fix after the week that he just had?
He's already on it. Oh, if like 4 fantasy, yeah, uh, yeah. I mean,
If you're
he's
desperate, like
doing
I
it.
like him more than Ritter for the fact of Cleveland week in and week out is going to be playing for their playoff lives.
Absolutely.
And because of Flacco being a 38, almost 40-year-old quarterback, being out of the game for over a year now, I expect them to be in passing situations a lot. So for fantasy purposes, I do see Flacco as viable going forward. If you had like a Justin Herbert to where, he's looking at surgery to where he's going to be out a little bit. So you're probably desperate, especially at this point in the season.
I mean, it's week 15, boys. Fantasy playoffs are here. Um, it's now or never. There is no, oh, all I have to do is just make it a couple more weeks. Like, if you lose this week because your quarterback sucks, like, you're going to have to hit on somebody. And that's where in the quarterback wide receiver preview that we do later in the week, we're really going to be hitting on some streamers, some people that in between that like you need to hit these people. These are the matchups that could potentially win you a league.
It feels like we're playing in a damn battlefield with all like nades going off and fucking explosions with all these injuries. And you're just looking around and it's just guys with broken legs everywhere. And we're just trying to make it through alive.
I mean,
It's
there's
really
injuries
tough out
every
here.
year. It's football.
It just seems, I know, it's just terrible this year. I mean, how about us trying to call for, pray for CJ Stroud and the man still comes up with an injury playing over there in
Concussion.
MetLife?
Luckily, it's a concussion.
Yeah, because their field sucks and he hit the ground and there's no cushion. So he got
I
a
was going to say,
concussion.
real shocker, a star player gets hurt at MetLife.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's almost like we previewed that happening just last week. We bring it up almost every week though. Now
We
going on
should.
to reviewing a little bit of receivers. Last week I asked you guys about Odell Beckham, and we mentioned how this time of year, a couple years back with the Rams, was whenever he started to take the big steps. And then with Mark Andrews being out, that he really is the guy. Zay Flowers has been getting more targets, but we've been talking about Odell and his potential, and we saw it this past weekend. He was one of the top receivers.
Nelson Aguilar, that dude.
Aguilar is solid, but
He popped.
Odell Beckham, and he every week he has shown he's their deep threat, and he's getting more and more targets each week as well. Whereas
10
this
targets.
last week he tied Zay Flowers for most targets on the team, which is what you want to be able to see out of him.
10 targets.
He's giving you wide receiver 2 type of production, but he's still available in over 60% of leagues.
Yeah.
And so to me, he's an easy guy you can pick up and immediately throw in your flex.
We knew he'd be nice for the playoffs, like if he could make it there.
Nelson Aguilar had 5 targets, 5 receptions, and 32 yards.
It was the 5 for 5 though. He threw it up, he came down with it. That boy was getting it.
I mean, Odell only had 4 catches, but he had 97 yards and a touchdown.
But
he had 10
it's just
targets. He had double his
we're-
targets.
I'm just trying to put some highlight on a guy who doesn't get really mentioned, very often.
Nelson Aguilar.
Shout out Nelson Aguilar out there, dude. Come out onto the podcast if you want, man. We're here for you.
I don't know if we're here for you, Nelson. You've been a decent, at best,
He might be
fantasy
in the Super Bowl, so
wide receiver for like the last 3 or 4 years. You've always been that guy that isn't just totally irrelevant, but like you're way too inconsistent. I think that Odell, though, what Justin said, his availability is stupid. The fact that we're already talking about him, he's not available in any of my leagues, or else he'd be on my team. So
let me paint a little picture for you. What if Odell went down? Then what do you feel about Nelson Aguilar after receiving the 5 for 5?
I think that if
I feel
Odell
better
goes down,
about Keaton Mitchell's value going up.
yep.
Damn, running
Then I
back.
would
That's it.
doubt
That's
Nelson
it. Gus
Aguilar.
Edwards goes down.
And honestly,
Mitchell
Rashad
got the
Bateman.
start last week.
Rashad Bateman is here. Nelson Aguilar is here, and then Zay Flowers and Odell are way up here. Like that's where I see Nelson Aguilar is the same way I see Rashad Bateman. They're the same player. Rashad Bateman's just a lot younger, has a lot more potential to like potentially become something besides what he is.
Yeah, I think he might be a bust. Like
Bateman.
yeah, he
I mean-
might be just to be a bust. Someone out there collecting paychecks. It happens.
Yeah. It's
You
been
gotta
injuries a
respect
little
it.
bit
They
for
earned the
him.
league. They made it.
It's
Yeah,
been a
I
little
mean,
bit
he's dealt
injuries
with
that
a
he's
lot
been
of
dealing
injuries.
with. But a lot of times, they say you gotta play hurt sometimes. There's being hurt and being injured, and maybe he's just not playing whenever he's hurt. Uh,
Yeah, it's different when you're playing for a ring, though.
I thought,
Now,
yeah,
I was gonna say we talked about Drake London already. Kind of gave him his hat tip there. Another guy who was just effective as a receiver, however, he's playing out of the backfield. James Cook.
Oh yeah.
James
Th-
Cook torched
that
the
second
Kansas City Chiefs.
that second catch of his for the touchdown was ridiculous. He didn't stop running at full speed and just
No,
caught it
caught
right
it
over the
in
middle.
stride and just kept going. Like it was awesome. And
Jaden Reed with the touchdown.
they're using him more out of the backfield, which is just good to see in general because it's just giving you more and more looks throughout the game. But as far as him as a receiver, I think you can still look for that to go forward as well. I mean, especially in these games here. And I've noticed it here lately. I don't know if it's just a Josh Allen thing, if it's a Buffalo Bills thing. But in the second half of these last couple seasons, Stephon Diggs just disappears. Like he's just not relevant. You can't bet on him
if
for
you don't
prop
get him
wise because you
going,
expect him to get, wide receiver one production. And for whatever it is too versus the Chiefs, he just does not play well versus the Chiefs at all.
mhm. And it is in the back half of seasons, like on every season, not every season, but like majority of his seasons,
'Cause
he's
he
got
always
like a
saw-
problem or an issue. Like after these games, like so many games get to him, he just starts acting up. He gets
He
issues.
has such a dominant
Locker room
beginning
issue.
of the season too, and it's a Bills thing partially as well. They start off so hot and then start to taper off. Now,
Can't talk too bad on him because we'll see him on wearing the star
Well,
soon.
no, that's the thing to me is like the last couple seasons as well. The Bills have hit a hot streak towards the end of the year. So the Bills as a team start doing this, but Stephon starts doing this.
yeah,
Very weird. And we know he has an attitude, so like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it, but James Cook absolutely dominated. And we told you last week, pick this guy up, immediately throw him in your lineup. He was getting ready to eat, and that's what he did. Zeke absolutely gave you what you expected to see. And that
he got 22
when you
carries.
can get what you expect out of a guy, 22 carries, 88 yards, touchdown on the ground, and had what 3 or 4 catches for another 30 or 40 yards.
Looked great.
Yep.
I mean,
Look-
that's wide receiver or running back one numbers straight up.
Yeah. It was prime Zeke is what you got to see again. We knew it was coming. They have nobody else on that offense. And with the Patriots playing Kansas City this week, I'm not scared by starting them again. Especially after seeing what James Cook just did. They're not near the same athlete, but I
but
expect
he's
Zeke
just
to get the
receiving
same
so
work.
much. Yeah, and Zappy's looking nice. You see him coming in the locker room
Zappy's
after the
happy.
game.
Oh, when he
Yeah.
just hugs
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien just all up on him and then sees Bill and he's just like, sir, congratulations, sir.
Love that.
Just real stiffed up. But yeah, I mean, what do you I like you said, Zeke, he put up RB1 numbers and I think he's startable the rest of the season.
Do you think Bailey Zappi's the only person in that organization that's happy with that win?
Probably. Well, him and Bill. Bill was happy with it.
Bill
needed it.
is never happy, so let's
As
just
far
get
as
it
the
over
guys up
with
top,
right now.
I don't think so because they're, the up top guys in the organization, they're sitting there looking at these quarterbacks that they have the potential to draft. So I
Yeah.
don't know how ecstatic they were about it.
That's
But
what I
also-
mean.
I mean, to me though,
even
that
the rest
win-
of the players, like think of
that's just
every
a
other
morale
position
booster.
group,
But
and
you-
thinking of like, wait, we just guaranteed that we're gonna be stuck with either Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones again next year. Like, oh fuck, why didn't we
So
just
then you should have
let a
told
block through? Like shit.
you should have told Zeke to stop running the ball so hard.
I mean,
You
Zeke's
know,
gonna
if that's
eat,
what you
know what I'm
wanted.
saying? He's gonna-
Exactly. You can't hold the beast back.
I'm just saying, like, I understand
You guys
Bailey
praise
Zappi's
it so
happy.
much. Like these guys are out here trying to make tape for themselves. Like
I'm
They're never
sorry.
gonna-
I'm
not
sorry
gonna
for
go play
making my
football.
joke. I'm just basically saying that for the Patriots position, the only person that should be happy that they won is Bailey Zappi because he saved his job potentially. Now they don't draft Caleb Williams over him. They're probably still going to draft Drake May though.
That might not even be the number 1 draft pick, brother.
It is. Jake Ferguson.
There's a Heisman winner in contention.
Jake Ferguson had another great game, and is going to continue to have great games. He's on one of the top 5 best offenses in football, with a great quarterback that loves him. And dude, the way his soft hands have looked the last couple of weeks, that snag from 2 weeks ago was unbelievable. It looked like Cooper Kupp from this past weekend on that final drive for the Rams. But yeah, I'm a little bit excited for some Jake Ferguson.
Ferguson's giving you some like Gronk type runs, some George Kittle type runs where he just refuses to go down.
Yep, got
He's
one of those.
getting angry with it. I absolutely love what I'm seeing at him, and he's getting 6 to 7 targets a game as well. He's clearly
And the end
become
zone
the
threat.
second favorite option in the passing game besides CD Lamb for Dak.
Last week
Which
I
he
said
should be.
that I was super excited to take Evan Ingram in the 5th round next year, and Ferguson's going to be there at the same time. Like, they're going to be gone right around the same area, and I think that's the perfect place to take a tight end next year. Taking the Darren Wallers before these guys go is going to be stupid. Like, it's going to be stupid.
That's not a guy I'm targeting.
I was going to say, you just mentioned him as well, Evan Ingram.
Yeah. Man.
I mean, everybody was probably rightfully so down on him all the way up until the time it was said Trevor Lawrence was going to get the start. But even then, what a way to have your best day. Like, your quarterback needed you. He's out there playing on essentially a bum ankle, and you were his safety blanket. That touchdown at the end of the game when they were trying to make a comeback, 2 total on the day. I mean, he's easily a top 3 fantasy tight end for the season, and I don't see it changing for the rest of the season throughout the playoffs.
We talked about him in the preview episode for tight ends on, even without Trevor Lawrence. We said because there was no Trevor Lawrence that this guy was going to get more work, that Ridley, it's going to be harder to get him the ball, that Evan Ingram's going to get the work. And it ended up being that Zay Jones and Ridley both did decent. But just Ingram was running hard, bro. He looked like he was ready to play football, and the rest of them didn't, is the way I interpreted it. I know that he's had a rough career starting off with the Giants and like being drafted super early as this, like, before Kyle Pitts, he was the most athletic tight end ever drafted.
And he's still young.
Yeah.
He's still only 26, 27 years old. Like, he's right there in the prime of lime.
Oh, really? All right, sign me up then. Let's go, baby.
Well, while you're signing up for that, make sure you sign up for Tulsi Rose tea at tulsirosetea.com for all of your tea needs. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to be bringing you guys more episodes later in the week. Check us out then. Peace.
Oops.
Mm.